Hey y'all, it's Addie Pruitt. You're watching Peace of Mind Planning. I'm a busy mom of two small boys, and I own a couple of independent pharmacies with my husband and a New Orleans-based estate planning lawyer. So that's a little bit about me. I'm coming to you from my cell phone today because my internet's being a little spotty in the house. So I thought I would try this. So we'll see how it goes. This is only the third attempt, and if this one doesn't work, there probably won't be another one. So I primarily talk about peace of mind plannings, wills, trusts, stuff like that. But today I wanted to do something a little different, and it may or may not be because my kids have been sick and didn't have time to prepare. But I wanted to talk about something that's been in the news, and that is Elon Musk buying Twitter for $44 billion. $44 billion. That is a lot of money. So I don't know if you know this about me, but I worked in the mergers and acquisitions group of Ernst & Young, a global accounting firm. I was with them 3 years in New York City and 2 years in Atlanta. So I won't say I worked on a transaction this big, but worked on some fairly large transactions while I was there. So have kind of a little bit of sense of what's going on. And when I hear about it in the news, I find it interesting. So I thought I wrote some words here on this Post-it note that I've been seeing in the news, and thought I'd kind of explain to you why you're seeing them and what they mean. And that's what I got for you today. So if you have any questions, want to pop on, just throw them up here and I'll do my best to answer them. So the first thing which came out was Elon Musk was going to own a certain amount of Twitter as a shareholder. So a shareholder is just what you call the owner of a company. When we hear shareholders, we often think, or at least I often think of a big public company like Twitter or Tesla or something like that, where you own shares in the company. But, a corporation doesn't have to be large. It could be a single person in Louisiana. You could be a shareholder of your own company. So that's not something I knew until I went to law school. And I will be totally honest. I went straight from undergrad to law school, and undergrad I was a political science major. So I had no clue about business. When I got to my first business law class at LSU, I was like, what is going on? I didn't understand half the terminology. So if this seems simple to you, it's probably because I remember going, I don't know what this means, and I had to look it up. So, okay, moving on. The next thing I wrote down on my list was public company. So what does that mean? That means anybody can buy it. It's public. You can go buy shares in it, as opposed to a closely held business where people don't, or what Elon Musk is doing now. He's taking it private. He's buying all of the shares, and he will be the sole owner. So you will no longer be able to buy shares in Twitter. Something else you may have heard in the news was it's an all cash deal. So like, what does that mean? Well, obviously he's going to pay for it with all cash, and he's financing a huge part of it, which we'll get into in a minute. But, you may also hear sometimes about it's being paid for with cash and equity. So in that case, sometimes the corporation buying the other corporation will give their stock in return to the owners. When I was in New York, people used, the kind of thing was cash is king. If you're being bought, you want the cash. So, typically you only see equity being given when it's really large companies, publicly traded, easy to monetize, because the last thing you want to do is get sell your business and get stuck with some stock that you can't sell. So that's a little bit about that. Let's see, the next thing I wrote down, and maybe equity. So when we talk about equity in terms of like buying a business, equity is really just kind of an overbroad term for, if you are an owner of a corporation. We said you were a shareholder, so you own equity in the corporation. If you're the owner of an LLC, you're a member, you own equity in the LLC, you own membership interest. And so just a kind of a generic term to talk about any type of business ownership, frankly. So the next thing you may have heard was that Elon, he bought, I can't remember if it was like 10 or 11% of stock. He was going to join the board of directors. So what does that mean? So the way a corporation works is you have shareholders. They are the people who own the stock in the company. But like, let's just say Twitter, for instance, there's millions of people who own stock, but they nominate and elect members of the board of directors. And so the board of directors are the people who actually, they don't run the company typically on a day-to-day, but they hire the people who run the company. So they hire the CEO, they hire the COO, those type of roles, and they have a lot of, they can have a lot of authority on the direction of the business. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and numerous things were said that the board of directors of Twitter wasn't the most involved board, shall we say. They didn't really push back too much on what the CEO wanted. So. But what they did do after Elon bought that big chunk of the company is they put a poison pill in the company. And so what is that? So I don't know if I know the actual terms of what this poison pill works, but poison pills generally work. They're a way to keep somebody like an active investor from buying the company. So what they probably did was do something like, somebody buys so many shares, then all the current shareholders get a 2-to-1 stock split or something like that, where it makes buying the equity prohibitively more expensive for the person trying to acquire it, because you're giving discounted shares to a bunch of people. And so the person buying it, I think that the thing I saw was, I can't remember, it's $54.20 a share. But if Twitter had issued another, let's say, doubled its shares at $54.20, that jacks up the price tremendously. So there was a poison pill, but what happened? So Twitter could have done that. They could have tried to prevent Elon Musk from buying Twitter, but instead they decided to negotiate with him and accept his offer, because he was paying a premium. I can't remember exactly what Twitter was trading at, but he was paying more than that for those shares when he made the offer. So now, you've seen all over Elon Musk buying Twitter. Elon Musk bought Twitter, but actually he has not bought the company yet. So he's probably has a purchase agreement to buy the company, but the closing is, it's not, the deal is not set to close until I think September, October of this year. And there is a breakup fee. So think of it as sort of like, when you buy a house, you put down a deposit. If you, for some reason, don't go through with it, they're going to take your deposit. Well, he hasn't put down a deposit, but the breakup fee, if he fails to close his transaction, and I'm sure there are tons of terms, like why or when he can walk away. But let's say he does something that triggers his breakup fee. It's $1 billion, $1 billion to not go through with this deal. So I believe last I saw he was worth $245 billion. So maybe, I don't know, I guess he could decide to walk away, but I'd have to say that that'd be a lot for me to walk away from. So we know he's under contract, so to speak, to buy this company, Twitter. How is he going to pay for it? So we already said, I think he was worth like $245 billion, but it's not cash. He doesn't have $245 billion in cash in banks around the world. A lot of it is in his stock holdings. So, primarily Tesla, but also the Boring Company, and I'm sure he owns tons of other companies and interests. So in order to monetize that, to take those interests, instead of just selling them, he is borrowing against a big chunk of them. So you may have heard that he has margin loans. So he's borrowing a bunch of money. I think it was like $13 billion, and his shares in Tesla are sort of the collateral for it. So if something happens, the bank says, and I think the loan to value ratio I saw was 20-1. So a bank's giving him $13 billion, but he has to put up, I think it was like 80 billion, or maybe it was 60 billion, a lot more than that of his Tesla stock. So because Tesla is publicly traded, as I'm sure if you looked at any of your stock holdings or retirement accounts, you will have seen the drop, because I know I did. I looked the other day. Bad move on my part, but stocks are going down, particularly growth stocks, particularly in the tech industry, which Tesla's in. So I know, right after the deal was announced, the stock went down, but let's say he put up, however many shares. If the value of those shares drop below a certain amount, he'll be in violation of his lending agreement. So the bankers could say, hey, you got to sell some Tesla stock in order to be in compliance with this agreement. So it's a very risky, I think, move on his part. But, when you have that much money, you've obviously taken a lot of risk. So, and then the final thing I wanted to touch on was, in addition to borrowing this stock, I believe he gave a blanket personal guarantee. So what that means, a personal guarantee, like normally when we talk about owning a company or owning a business, we're looking for limited liability. That limited liability is what shields you as the owner from people suing the business and being able to go against non-business assets like your house or your car or anything like that. But when you give a personal guarantee to a lender like a bank, what you're saying is, yes, I'm going to, let's just say, you borrow $100,000 from the bank for your company. Let's say you're just starting out. You've convinced them to give you $100,000. You showed them your business plan. You're showing them how you can make money. But you're not putting all that. Let's say you're putting $10,000 of cash in the building and in the business. No bank's gonna say, okay, well, I just agree to go after that $10,000 of cash if you can't repay this loan. They're gonna say, no, maybe I'll give you the money, but you have to sign this personal guarantee. So if you default on this loan for your business, or the business defaults, on the loan, I'm going to be able to go against your personal assets. I can go seize the money in your bank account, or take your car or house or whatever that is. So the fact that he gave a $13 billion personal guarantee just kind of shows you, I think, how much he is at risk in this transaction. And just having worked in New York, usually you're trying to borrow as much money as you can and have as little of your own personal assets in the game when you're doing these types of transactions. And he seems to have kind of flipped the script on that, and has I think he maybe has a $30 billion loan, but then a lot of his personal worth is at stake. So anyway, as you can tell, I have found this whole saga very interesting. And hopefully this explanation kind of shed some light on what you've been hearing in the news. So let's see, come down here and do all the stuff I'm supposed to do. If you have any questions you want me to talk about, please send them to me. It would be great to answer them live on the air. You can send them to info at addieprewittlaw.com. That's all one word, ADDIEPREWITTLAW.com. And of course, be sure to like, follow, subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, I'm on SoundCloud. And if you ever want to catch up on all episodes, you can look up my website, addieprewittlaw.com, and find whatever you're looking for. So I hope you guys are having a happy Wednesday. Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye.